a weight loss problem because everyone's everyone's overweight. But we don't have a weight loss problem. 6 out of 7 people in this world will lose a substantial amount of weight. We have a weight loss and keep it off problem. That's the problem we have. People have shown all the time they can lose weight. We have a weight loss and keep it off problem because 70% of those people will put all the weight back on in the first 12 months. 85% will put it on in the next 2 years. And 95% will put it all on, back on in 3 years. That means diets have a 5% success rate.
And that's awesome because there's studies showing that when you eat to your DNA versus not eating to your DNA, you can both get results. For example, let's even talk about training for this example. There was 2 groups. There was a study out of Manchester, 2 groups over an 8-week period. One group of people trained to their DNA. So if they were more suited towards power endurance, they trained power. One group of people trained opposed their DNA. So if they were power, they trained endurance. If they were endurance, they trained power. And over the 8-week period, both groups improved their key fitness indicators, their markers, which goes to show that any exercise is going to be beneficial. Get this, dude. The group that trained against their DNA improved just over 2%. Not too bad. Could just be a personal trainer or an old school coach in my experience going, well, your training program's working. But the people that train to their DNA improved just under 7 times or 7%, which gives you nearly 3 times more benefit training to your DNA. So you can get results almost 3 times as fast and improve almost 3 times as much.
Or do a third of the work.
Or do a third of the week. Absolutely. And then they did the follow-up test. It was actually a separate study. And I think it combined the training and the nutrition. And they followed people over a 2-year period. Those people that trained or I'll just say aligned themselves to their DNA continue to keep the weight off versus those people that didn't. And there's a couple thoughts on this. One is knowing what your DNA responds to, you're kind of unconsciously empowered to make a better decision. You know, so not conformity, but there's a word where you stick at it. The consistency, it's not the word I'm after, but the consistency in following the program beat anyone who was just guessing or who didn't have a structured plan tailored to them. So what's that? Compliance, absolutely. It increased the compliance. Yeah. So,
I mean, we sort of, you know, it's nice to have those studies because you kind of feel that. And even I've talking to some people about, you know, DNA, and even someone like Mushy who, you know, probably would have been fine without it. He knows. Okay, got to have this, got to have that, and he just trusts it, and he makes better decisions. He just makes better decisions. You know, when it's like, or if, maybe when, or it's like, no, look, I'm having the extra serve of cruciferous veggies because, you know, my, you know, phase 2 detoxification is not as great as, so I'm having it. Like, it's like a no-brainer when you come to those crossroads of what to do or what to eat. It's easy to align yourself with the foundation because it's there. It's right there. Whereas sometimes with a lot of other nutritional treatments, it's more difficult. But yeah, that's awesome, man. That's kind of how I wanted to go into the fact that 95% of people put all their weight back on. 50% of those put more weight back on than they lost anyway, so they end up fatter. Wow. 50% of the 90% that put it all back on put on more. They end up fatter than they started 3 years ago. Mental. And so what I wanted to do is say, what are the 5% doing that the other 95% aren't doing? What do they know that the rest of you guys don't know? Or the rest of the world doesn't know? and then go into why that happens. Because it's all about, the reason that it happens is the body sends a strong signal. You send a strong signal to your body that you're in a semi-starvation state, and your body locks down and goes into a self-defense mechanism and tries to stop you from killing yourself. Simple as that. Because if you go on and you reduce and restrict calories every day indefinitely, there will come a time where you die.
Yes.
And so your body slows everything down. It slows your basal metabolic rate down. It then becomes an energy converting machine. Like yourself, if you have a high calorie meal, because you're of a normal weight and you're eating relatively, you're maintaining weight. So sometimes you have higher days and low days, but you're not counting. But it's just, that's just how it feels. You eat when you're hungry, and you eat until satisfied, and you eat a lot of micronutrients. If you're maintaining weight, you're in energy balance, whether or not you count calories or not. That's just the facts. And when you eat a high calorie meal, let's say we go to the Good Shed and have a pizza, a lot of those high calories, because your body's not in stress because you're starving it, gets dissipated as heat. Whereas if you're in a calorie deficit for a long period of time, your body doesn't let any of that go. It stores it as fat. So not only does basal metabolic rate decrease and you get metabolic damage, you become this food sucking machine, and it when you get food after that, that's, you hang on to all of it. And so your fat stores go up, and then it makes it more difficult for you to lose. There's some studies that show that you get adipose tissue changes that make it more difficult for you to lose weight in the future. So if you go to put weight back on and then go to lose it again, your body's set up another defense mechanism, because if you think about it, that's what it wants to do. I mean, a diet is controlled famine, and in times of famine, the body tries to survive, and that's what you're doing to it. And so that's why, and so the whole goal here is to understand that the cause and effect of diets failing is the signal to the body that it's starving. That's the cause, because it just starts a cascade of physiological and pathophysiological things, that in hormonal responses, your ghrelin and your leptin and your insulin, all that kind of stuff, to try and hold on to as much body fat as possible, or slow the body down as much as possible to reduce that energy gap. What was I saying?
Why diets fail.
Yeah. So if that's the signal, it needs to be blunted. So how do you blunt that signal? Well, you have predetermined little diet breaks, which allow you to have some of the treats and some of the cakes that you've been bitching and complaining about, that you can't say no to at a party, and all this kind of rubbish and all that, oh, she had the cake and I have to. And so this is where I am going to see the idea that actually you want to blunt that signal every now and then to tell your body you're not starving. Well, mate, that's going to do as least damage as possible.
We're already recording, and the last 5 minutes has been pretty rock solid. So let's just keep let's just keep the conversation going. So we're talking about really the thermostat and the thermometer equation here. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So
that's one of your favorite analogies.
Yeah. So if anyone listening, it's really, you have a thermostat that sets the temperature and does everything it can to control the external environment to that temperature. For example, the air condition in your hotel room. You set it to 20 degrees, and if it's 40 degrees outside, no matter what, it will be 20 degrees inside. And if you open up a window, it's going to work even harder to try to keep that at 20 degrees. The thermometer is where it fluctuates with your external environmental conditions, where it can be 40 degrees outside, and then you put that thermometer straight into the freezer, and within 30 seconds, it's gone from 40 degrees down to 5 degrees. So that's what's happening with your metabolism, your basal metabolic rate. So when you consistently starve yourself, as Ty was saying before, your body thinks it's going to starvation mode, and it is a very smart machine that gets you to, or helps you to adapt for survival purposes. So therefore it slows everything down. So therefore you're not expending as much. And now what you used to burn, for example, 2,000 calories as a thermostat, now your thermostat is set at 1,000 calories as at a thermostat. And that's why if you then go off your diet and you eat after you've done a 8, 10, 12, 16 week starvation challenge, and you go back to eating, say, 1,500 calories, all of a sudden your thermostat has gone from 2,000 to 1,000. You're now eating less than what you were prior to your fad diet and your challenge. However, now your thermometer is 500 calories more than your thermostat. And now each day, if you continue to eat 1,500 calories, theoretically, you are going to keep putting on 500 plus 500 plus 500 plus 500. And over the course of the weeks and months, you're now eating less, but you're gaining more fat because you're now in a calorie surplus.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's exactly what happens. And it's exactly the reason why 70% of people put weight back on in the first year, 85% put weight back on after 2 years, 95% put all their weight back on after 3 years, and over 50% put more weight than they started. It's because you go back to eating what would be considered a maintenance of your original thermostat, and now it's not. It's just not happened. It's been adjusted down because your body's tried to save yourself from this controlled famine that you've applied to it. So that's the reason why diets fail. And for very good reason, if you think about it evolutionarily. Like in times of famine, the body had to survive long periods of time until food, was made available. And so the body, like you said, very, very smart machine, and that's exactly what it does. But
so how do we... Oh, sorry to interrupt you, mate. Go on.
I was just going to say, but knowing that that is the reason why most diets fail, or if not all diets fail, we then can say, okay, well, if that's the cause of most diets failing, how do we stop that signal from happening? If the body receives a signal that you send it by eating too little calories each and every day, how do you stop that signal? Well, it's simple. You have to eat. If by not eating, either by eating not enough or by having a calorie deficit too much, or adjusting your temperature gauge down too much, or by staying in a calorie deficit or a negative energy balance for too long. So too big a deficit, so not enough calories, or just staying in a deficit for too long. They're the two ways in which you do a lot of damage. That means that the diet will fail, and you'll put all the way back on plus more. Simple as that. So you got to stop that signal.
So a deficit for too long will reduce your thermostat. What was the second thing you said also would reduce the thermostat?
Well, a too big a deficit.
Too big of a deficit.
Yeah. So if you're dealing with too big of a deficit, let's go back to your 2,000, 1,000 model. Let's say Mac needs 2,000 calories to maintain his weight, which is not correct. Don't go crazy on that. But let's say he needs 2,000 and he wants to lose weight. He's in Bali with all these beautiful bodies. He wants to get shredded, and he goes down to 1,000. That is a big deficit. That is 50% of his calories that he's down to. He's going to create metabolic damage, and his thermostat will adjust down because of that. Everything's going to slow down because it's a big shock to the body. Or if he's got a 500 calorie deficit, that's a little bit better. I like that. That's sustainable. However, if he's on a 500 calorie deficit for 6 months and he never ever eats back to a maintenance or a surplus, that does equally as much damage.
Yeah.
So
I like that. And just to give people a context, I said 2,000 and 1,000 before. Now you see this every day in your practice with all your DEXA scans. On average, most people would be around, say, 1,300 calories per day?
Most females would have a basal metabolic rate, a resting metabolic rate. And for people playing along at home that don't understand these terms, that's just how much energy you need to keep the lights on at home effectively. That's just how many calories you need to function as a human. That doesn't include all the things you do during the day: walk the dog, go to the gym, go for a walk, even working and making lunch, all that kind of stuff. So about 1,300 to 1,400 calories is a basal metabolic rate for a female, and about 1,700 to 1,900 for an average male.
Yep. And I've got a couple ways where we want to go for this. Let's keep on track with the thermostat and the metabolic damage. What we want to do is we want to trick the body that it's not in starvation mode. So it's almost like you want to be in a deficit. So your body, well, when you're in a deficit, you're going to start to lose. So when your body loses, hopefully, more fat than muscle, and that's the whole difference between micros, macros, and calories.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, if at the end of the day, if your goal is weight loss and you want to lose 10 kilo, you can lose 10 kilo in a day. You can just literally chop off your arm and there's 10 kilo. But what we want to do is we probably want to use the term fat loss. And there's two types of fat. There's the fat around our organs, which is the visceral fat, which is the potentially toxic and harmful fat to our body and our health span and lifespan. And then there's your adipose tissue, your stock standard fat that you would see on your belly and that sort of surrounds kind of your muscles and your arms and your hips and your thighs.
Yeah.
So when we're in that deficit, how many days can we go, and what would be the healthy range? So if there's the two limits, too much of a deficit and for too long, how do we get our best bang for buck without getting too scientific? How many days and at what deficit would you recommend would not do metabolic damage, aka would not throw off the thermostat?
Yep. Great questions. And we have a host of scientific studies that show what are the perfect numbers. It's a great study done from University of Tasmania, or Launceston. Anyway, down there. It's a brilliant study. So a diet break, and that's what I like to call them, and this is my personal prescription to any clients that sort of I deal with. A diet break at least once a week. I like twice a week. So that is signaling to your body that you're not in a deficit at least once a week. So no more than 7 days of being in a constant deficit.
Mm-hmm.
And the diet break for one whole week every 4 weeks.
So that's where your common analogy of let's have a cheat day, for example, once a week.
Yeah. That's where it comes from. It comes from and a cheat day, or what is the nomenclature has changed to sort of a structured refeed day, because it's not necessarily cheating because it's actually helping you lose body fat. It's helping reset hormones. It's helping signal to your body that you're not starving. So it's helping undo potential metabolic damage. And so that's where it came into. For that day that you eat more calories than you burn off, so now you're not in a negative energy balance or a deficit, you're not down here, you're actually up here, you're actually eating more calories than your body needs. That signals to the body, you know, if Mac does that, Mac's body goes, hey boys, I thought the last 4 days, I thought he was starving us to death. Turns out we're all good. Don't worry. Back to work. Yeah, we're all good. And then Mac goes on another deficit for another 2 days. And then he goes again. He has another day, and people start, panic stations happen, and all the hormonal responses, and people start going, oh, he's doing it again. Hang on a second. Well, he's trying to starve us to death. And then he signal, no, it's all good. And then after 4 weeks of doing that, of being in a deficit at least 6 days or 5 days a week, and a surplus or a maintenance on the other 2, you then have a whole week off of a deficit. And that has been shown to be the most sustainable diet prescription in terms of consuming calories that does the least amount of metabolic damage. Because what we want to happen is we want that thermostat to be adjusted as little as possible at the end of it, because we want you to eat food. We want you to enjoy food. Like, food is there to be enjoyed. You know, we have amazing ways in which we can prepare it. It's a social thing. It's It's, it's happiness. It brings about, a lot of emotion. And so food's there to be enjoyed. And we want you to consume as many calories as you can without sustaining body fat. That's the goal. And so this is the only responsible way to do it.
And the beautiful thing I like about the word of the structured refeed day is it removes the guilt of cheating on your diet. Like, that connotation is just such a negative mindset. Oh, I'm cheating on my diet. No, your diet doesn't change. Just like your genetics don't change, neither should your diet. So when you eat to your genetics, you naturally look and perform how you are designed to. And just got off the phone to Tennille, who has been eating to her DNA over the last maybe 9-10 months. And she's lost over 16 kilos. And she was just saying on the phone how easy it has been just when you're empowered with the better choices. Now, she wasn't necessarily tracking calories that whole time. In fact, I don't even think she still is tracking calories. Things are just naturally happening, which is really, really good. But to go back to the mindset of you're not cheating on your diet, what you're actually doing is you're having, you said you called a strategic refeed day, which I think is absolutely fantastic, because what you can do is, if you, like, I know you have a strategic refeed day on Thursday and Saturday, correct?
Correct.
Awesome.
Yep.
So your strategic days are Thursday, Saturday. Let's just say you're having a really bad, terrible Monday where shit's hit the fan and you're like, you know what? Fuck it. I just want to go out for burgers today on a Monday. That is totally cool. That doesn't offset the rest of your week. You've just moved your strategic day from Thursday to Monday. It's just like rescheduling a work meeting. Oh, I can't do it tomorrow, but let's bring it forward today. Perfect. Now, the thing is, if you have 2 really bad emotional surplus days in a row, then that's going to take some discipline to go, you know what? Let's pull the reins in for the rest of the week. And then the good thing about this, though, Ty, is let's just say that you've had 2 really bad days in a row and you wake up on the 3rd day and you've been on this plan for the last 3 or 4 weeks and you're just like, you know what? It's getting a lot right now. I'm tired. I'm emotional, because being in a deficit, this is the thing, going a little bit of a rant, losing fat is hard. Losing fat is hard. Your body is lazy in the fact that your body doesn't want to burn its storage. It wants you to consume something so it can burn it straight away. And the analogy I love to think about this is, when you're in the kitchen, think about you in the kitchen, right? Your body loves to be in the kitchen. You've got your carbohydrates on your kitchen bench and you're eating your carbohydrates. Your body doesn't have to move for it. Doesn't have to prep it. Just needs to unpack it, the packet, and then it starts eating the chocolate. Your protein is in the fridge. And it's like, that's not too bad. It's still in the kitchen. You know, you got to take a couple meters to the fridge. You get it out, you prep it, you season it. But once you cook it, oh, it's beautiful and it's delicious, and your body likes that. Your fat, on the other hand, that's not even in the kitchen. That's down outside, out the back in the cellar. And your body kicks up a massive fuss about you going in and starting to create or burn your own fat storage. So it is going to make you really tired. It's going to make you really moody. It's going to make you feel lethargic, and you're going to be cranky and all of that stuff. And you're going to get cravings, because that's your body going, hey, I want to stop you from leaving the kitchen. Going outside the kitchen is a scary place for me. It takes a lot of work, and I don't want to work because my sole job is here to keep you alive. And so when tying this back to the strategic refeed day, let's just say you have 2 of them in a row, 2 really bad days in a row, and you've been on this new diet lifestyle plan for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and you are feeling not as energized and you are a bit tired and moody. You can go, you know what? I can have a strategic week off.
Yep.
Which I just think completely transforms the mindset about the motivation of going, oh, I've got to start again. I had a bad weekend. You know, oh, I might as well start next month. I might as well start. Oh, hang on. Easter was just there. We got Christmas coming up. We got a birthday, got an engagement, fuck it. I'll start next year. And you never start. Or you always start and stop because you rely on the motivation to go, you know what, I'm motivated to be on my diet. I'm going to be so good today. I'm going to be so good tomorrow. I'm going to be perfect. And you're going to be perfect for 3 weeks, and you haven't had a refeed day. You haven't rewarded yourself. And all of a sudden you're not seeing those results. You're not feeling so good, and you go, bugger it, it's not working. And that's where the yo-yo diet syndrome comes in. And that's where I literally think if you know exactly what foods or what diet is most suited to you, even under the worst of days, it's not you don't start your diet again, because you never go off it. It is just what you eat. And all you do is you just adjust the quantities. We're not talking about you going out and having Macca's Monday to Friday or Monday to Sunday and that's your week off. It's like you can still make good choices. If you have deprived yourself of starchy veggies, such as potato, sweet potato, parsnip, pumpkin, something like that, those are the good days to have in your refeed day. You know, if you are working out, you know, maybe you throw in some rice post-workout, you know, and certainly if you're following a Mediterranean plan, you want like a brown rice over a white rice. Like there's just some smart things that you can do. And inside out your DNA report, you actually get a daily amount of refined carbohydrates. So if you do really want to go off chops and you do want to have something that's refined, such as white rice, because there's a process involved that takes a whole grain and strips the outer shell and that becomes a white rice or a white grain. Or if you want to go even further and you go, you know what, bugger it, I just want some potato chips or chocolate, you actually get your daily limit in there. So even if you're having such a bad emotional day, you still get a really good foundation of your allowances on your quantities and quality types of food.
Yeah, brilliant. So, I mean, so far, the summary so far is that weight loss and I just want to call it sort of weight loss because we'll do some videos into the future talking about actual fat loss. It is actually possible to lose fat while being in a caloric maintenance, depending on sort of what you do eat and how you're training and all that kind of stuff as well.
And your muscle mass and all of that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff as well. But let's say weight loss is only ever possible with a negative energy balance. It's only and how you choose to create that little negative energy balance between calories consumed and burnt is completely up to you. And I would recommend doing it more often than not, eating to your DNA and eating whole foods. You know, if you can kill it and it grows in the ground, then it's probably pretty good. And that's just what's going to sustain you for longer and sustain your energy levels. And it's going to be a lot easier than eating Pop-Tarts. That's for sure. However, if you want a Pop-Tart, that's okay as long as you structure it in to signal to your body, because the body treats a negative energy balance, and it's the only way to lose weight, as controlled famine. Okay? That signal of starvation sends to the body during this, activates your body's defense system. And that's the defense system that says, no, you're not going to starve me. I'm holding onto fat and I'm going to absorb as much calories as possible, or as many calories as possible, and store them as fat to stop you from doing this to me in the future. Okay? So starvation mode activates that defense mechanism. And the answer is to stop the signal. And you stop the signal by every now and then having the Pop-Tart. That's how you stop the signal. And so you stop, and so that's when, and it doesn't need to be a Pop-Tart. It doesn't need to be ice cream or burgers. It could just be homemade butter chicken. Just rich, buttery, full fat with some saffron, like some comfort food. If you find yourself, if you're in a deficit every day, it's really hard to eat some foods that are meant to be enjoyed and meant to be enjoyed with your family and your friends. You become a social piranha, and no one's inviting you around for house parties. That's for sure. And so these structured refeed days, they allow you to say, hey, I'm allowed, it's guilt-free to consume more calories on a Thursday or a Wednesday or a Saturday, whenever it is, because my body needs it. I need to tell the body I'm not starving it. Otherwise, I'm going to do a lot of long-term damage that I'll never back out of. I mean, it takes almost 4 to 5 years to recover from metabolic damage from having either too big a deficit or too long a deficit by not signaling to your body you're not starving. So you could do a lot of damage, and then it only gets harder. And so you get this psychological benefit of, you know, let's say Monday and Tuesday are pretty hard. You know, you're eating 1,000 calories and it's pretty hard, or 1,200 calories. But Wednesday's just around the corner, and you've got a nice, you're going to trivia night at the pub, and you haven't had a palmy, and you're going to have a champagne, and you're going out with the girls or whatever, and so you get through Monday and Tuesday because you've got Wednesday coming. And so it gives you a bit of a pat on the back, a bit of a psychological pat on the back. You know, you collect the wins. Great job Monday, great job Tuesday. And not only do you get the psychological release of eating a food that you're looking forward to and enjoying the moment in life, because life is meant to be enjoyed, your body needs it to burn more fat. How brilliant is that? It's like a win-win-win.
That's how you can have your cake and eat it too.
You need it too.
I reckon that wraps up part one. Part two, I want to talk about what type of cake and when can you eat it. So I'll stop it here. Join us on that episode.